okay?
No, I'm chaos and he's mayhem.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 1992 action classic sequel, Lethal Weapon 3. The film is once again directed by Richard Donner and stars Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Joe Pesci, Rene Russo and Stuart Wilson. This time round, Riggs and Murtaugh go up against Jack Travis, who is an ex-cop, a crooked ex-cop that likes to steal from the department and sell the goods on the streets. Riggs and Murtaugh, who are initially busted down to patrolmen after a huge explosion at the beginning of the film that was their fault, end up getting back on the streets and teaming up with Rene Russo's Lorna Cole, who works for Internal Affairs, and together they aim to take Jack Travis down. Right, what are my thoughts on Lethal Weapon 3? Well, I think, on the whole, I think generally, I mean, this it's worth saying. Obviously, this was the most successful Lethal Weapon film at the box office by quite a large margin, as well as when you actually look at the numbers. There are many that feel like it was a declining quality from the first two. Now, I understand that point of view, but if you're a fan of this franchise, which I absolutely am, I really enjoy every single one of them, and I'm not going to say equally, but I enjoy each of them for their own merits, and it feels like each of them are a natural follow-on from the previous one. The second one started to focus a little bit more on, the comedic aspect of the franchise, and the third one again leaned heavily into that, the comedic aspect of the franchise and the characters. And it's yes, in many ways it is a lighter film, and it's when you compare these characters to the characters we met in the first film, there is a lot of differences in a lot of ways, but also at the same time you have to consider that these characters have actually grown and evolved since the first film. Riggs essentially has grown massively as a character in the first two films, and now this one. He isn't the same person he was in the first film, because in the first film he was suicidal, and a bit of a lunatic, hence the title Lethal Weapon. In actual fact, the title Lethal Weapon from probably 2 onwards doesn't really fit, because he isn't a lethal weapon anymore, So it's depending on where you sit, and I'm not really a big fan of ranking franchises. I think I did a ranking video once on this channel. It didn't do particularly well, and this is about 4 or 5 years ago anyway. I don't generally do ranking videos because I know they are quite popular on YouTube, but genuinely I enjoy all these Lethal Weapon films. If I was being critical and scoring them, which I have done, you can check out my reviews for Lethal Weapon, Lethal Weapon 2, and you'll see my review for this at the end. Yes, okay, when you look at them with a critical eye, this isn't as good as the first two. But as a standalone film, with the characters that you love, it's still a hugely entertaining movie. A spectacular opening with the explosion of the building. It's a great opening to the movie. Murtaugh's 8 days away from retirement. And, everything that could go wrong within that 8 days absolutely does go wrong. It's just a great setup for a film like the explosions and the busted down to patrolmen, and then it all kind of takes off from there. I love the fact that they try and give different layers each time to these characters. And this film, it doesn't seem important, but Riggs is trying to stop smoking, for example. so they're just adding new little tweaks and layers to the characters that just kind of lead into like funny moments here and there. And I think obviously the biggest, darkest, most serious moment in this film was obviously when Murtaugh kills that kid. A kid that his son knows, the gang member, and it has a really devastating effect on Murtaugh, as it would. I thought that was done really quite well, but also at the same time, you can say it was fairly clever writing because at that point, Murtaugh's out of the film for about 20 minutes, and that allows Riggs to build this relationship with Rene Russo's Lorna Cole, who becomes his partner. Love interest, not partner. So it kind of allows her to bed into the franchise, and she does bed in really, really quite well. And it's another fine addition, and that's something this franchise has done well. Obviously, we got the introduction of Joe Pesci in the second one. Brilliant addition. He turns up here as well, and even though it doesn't feel like they've got an awful lot for him to do in this film, he's still always brilliant. Every time he's on screen, it brings a smile to your face, Joe Pesci, in any of the franchise films. And you could argue, from the second one, at the end of the second one onwards, they didn't really have an awful lot to do. But as fans of the franchise, you'd have been disappointed not to see Joe Pesci return in the films. And they've got fabulous chemistry. Really, really great chemistry. And then a lot of people point at Stuart Wilson's Jack Travis as the weakest villain of the franchise. Do I agree with that? Probably, but I still think he's a decent villain. The ex-cop, I think they could have played on that a little bit more. I really, really do. It just kind of, I don't know, they could have given definitely this Jack Travis character more to do, because he was an ex-cop. He obviously, they could have really leaned into that, where the police department felt betrayed, or even Murtaugh and Riggs could have potentially known the guy and had a real, had previous encounters with him. And I think there's a lot they could have done with Jack Travis, but they didn't, if you like. They just kind of, he was there. But I still think that Stuart Wilson gave a decent performance. I mean, he's always played a good villain. If you look at a lot of the 90s films, he's always played a good villain. He was a great villain in the Zorro film, and he's done certainly a couple of other memorable villain performances. So, what are my thoughts really on Lethal Weapon 3 in regards to where it sits in the franchise? I don't know. I mean, I've always put this at the bottom for me. And that's not saying that I don't like the film, because I absolutely do. I love all of the films. But I'm looking forward to rewatching the fourth one to see if that changes. I've always really had a soft spot for the fourth one, for a lot of different reasons. So I'm looking forward to kind of checking out Lethal Weapon 4 again, because it's probably a good 5 to 10 years maybe since I saw it, and see if my thoughts are still the same. But beyond that, what we've got here is a brilliant sequel, very successful at the cinema, brilliant chemistry, great action. Of course, you expect great action in the Lethal Weapon franchise, and this one is absolutely no different. You get the lighter moments with the characters. You get a lot going on. Murtaugh's retirement. He's trying to sell his house. Riggs trying to stop smoking. Murtaugh killing the kid. Riggs starting a relationship with Rene Russo's character. I mean, there's lots going on in this film, but it never feels scruffy and messy. You could only really, if you really sat and analysed it, you could say, I suspect the script wasn't really tight when they went into this. In fact, I know it wasn't. So it kind of felt like at times they were kind of making it up as they went along, which is probably not far from the truth. But still, great addition to the franchise. Very, very enjoyable to watch. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Lethal Weapon 3. And I will, of course, be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.